Well, lots happening in the political arena with the federal election underway and, of course, the ongoing tariff war. Alberta's premier has laid out a list of 9 demands to federal leaders. So here to talk more about that is Alberta's Minister of Affordability and Utilities, Nathan Neudorf, who is the MLA for Lethbridge East. Nathan, welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you again for having me.
Of course. Okay, so Nathan, the federal election obviously has been called, and Premier Danielle Smith, she's laid out these 9 demands to federal leaders, including no emissions cap on oil and gas. Now, Smith says Liberal leader Mark Carney told her privately that there would be no cap, but now is saying, well, actually, there will be an emissions cap. So how important is this election to Alberta's economy?
This election is incredibly important to Alberta's economy and to Alberta's future. We have been struggling with a federal Liberal government for many years that continually tries to slow down or stop altogether our oil and gas economy and make it more difficult, continually reaching into provincial jurisdiction, which we tell them time again don't do, and we have to fight them in court, and we inevitably win. And we do unfortunately have a long list of federal leaders that come to Alberta, promise certain things here or say them quietly to us, and then they go say something different when they get back to Ottawa. So we hope Albertans are paying attention, and we hope Canadians are paying attention and vote for a government that actually puts Canada and all Canadians first instead of just their own political interests.
I think it was actually the same day that they flipped that. I believe it was his environment minister that that sort of went publicly on the other side of the country saying, actually, no. So Nathan, do you believe fellow politicians, when they suddenly change their mind on these issues at election time, particularly when for decades they have been maybe like for carbon taxes and against building pipelines?
Yeah, I don't. And I don't think any Canadians do. It's what gives politicians, all colors, all stripes, bad name. When you say one thing in election time, you say something different. I know it's something that I would ask them to look at. It's very important to remain consistent in the face of potentially some pushback. I know I've had challenges, whether I talk about issues that are important to Lethbridge, but if it's been a platform promise, I've got to stay consistent and say the same thing from when I was first elected 6 years ago to today. And I would hope that people would pay attention if federal politicians are changing their tune after decades writing books about carbon taxes and reducing emissions and then promising to go a different direction. I find it a little bit hard to believe, and I'm sure many of your watchers do as well.
Now, Premier Smith actually mentioned the possibility of a referendum if these 9 demands are not met. So she sounds pretty serious. So to what degree are you hearing rumblings about Alberta separation?
Well, we are hearing rumblings, certainly, and we are, I believe, the Premier very serious to take our lead from Albertans, which is why we've got legislation to allow for citizen-led referendum. And if those issues are important to enough Albertans, they can move that forward, and we want to listen to that. We're proud to be part of Canada. We want jurisdictional guidelines to be followed, and we want people to work together. But when Alberta consistently is taken for granted, consistently sees our resources and our wealth transferred to other regions of the country against our wishes and not reinvesting in Alberta, that's hard on the people of Alberta. So we really hope that a government will be elected in Ottawa that works for all Canadians, no matter where they live, and shows that equality that we're so proud of when we wear the red, white flag and watch the Olympics and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Very patriotic times these days, for sure. One thing we can't get away from right now seems to be the talk of tariffs, and the tariff wars continue with the U.S. and now with China, meaning that Alberta canola farmers are looking at 100% tariffs. So the Premier had mentioned the possibility of selling canola to oil companies for use in biofuels. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this is a great initiative. When you're faced with challenges, which will result in a very difficult time selling to one of the largest economies in the world, we have to find other solutions and other answers. And this is one where we think there's a great opportunity. Albertan companies are very innovative. And while, of course, our farmers, ranchers don't want to have to find new markets, they will do what they need to do to continue to make sure that we prosper as an economy. And selling for biodiesel, biofuels, is a great alternative. And maybe it fills the gap for a short period of time, maybe it fills the gap for a long period of time. But making sure that we have diverse avenues to different markets so we're not restricted when one or two choose to do something like this, I think that's the best path forward.
And Nathan, how well do you think Alberta is positioned to get through a tariff war with the U.S.?
Well, we're all going to feel it in many different ways, but I believe that Alberta is amongst the best position for provinces. We've already seen our leader do a tremendous amount of work, and at least for now, the promise is that if energy is taxed, it'll be at a much lesser rate than a 25%, and we're hopeful that we can alleviate those tariffs altogether. Beyond that, we've seen a great resilience from our ag industry and other machinery and manufacturing industries. We've got more work to do. We hope that cooler heads will prevail and the integrated nature of our market will allow for good talks, good negotiations so that we can de-escalate this and work to better both Alberta's economy and the U.S. states' economies. They're heavily reliant on a lot of products out of Alberta.
Yeah, for sure. Now, switching gears a little bit here, the United Conservative Party continues to get a lot of negative publicity over allegations of corruption in the Alberta Health Services contracts procurement process. So do you have any updates on this? Is there any evidence being produced by either side in this conflict?
Well, there is likely evidence that is going into 3 different independent investigations. It's not coming to us. Obviously, we are participating fully, transparently. There's the Auditor General, who's having a look through their office, completely independent. Our government has appointed Judge Wyatt, Raymond Wyatt, a former judge from Manitoba, to run an independent investigation. And he's working on that. Hopefully, a report will be tabled by the end of June. And of course, the RCMP are also doing an investigation, which we're fully cooperating with. We know this is serious. We are participating fully. And we, like everybody, want to know exactly what's going on and make sure that the government is serving the needs of Albertans and healthcare is doing it appropriately.
You mentioned the end of June there. Is that when Albertans might get some answers on this AHS issue, or do we have to wait for all of the 3 investigations to be complete?
Well, the one that I have details on is Judge Wyatt will have a final written report that will be made public on June the 30th.
All right.
So, yeah.
That's good. Right now, it seems like a she said, he said argument over all of this until those investigations are done. So looking forward to that for sure. Now, Now, Nathan, as Minister of Affordability and Utilities, you've been involved in restructuring the electricity market. So can you give us a brief recap of what's changed and how reliable the grid is and maybe what options are available to Albertans?
Certainly. Our grid is more reliant and reliable than ever. Thankfully, we had about 3,000 megawatts of dispatchable generation come online last year. So we're in a very good place in terms of generation right now, but we continue to grow. And believe me, affordability is top of mind for my ministry, but all ministries within our government, because people are feeling the pressure of those bills. What's the challenge really is that when we made the fast change from coal to renewables, while generation costs in general came down, intermittency or variability of supply went up. And what that meant is we had to do a whole lot of additional purchasing to fill the gap when it wasn't windy or when the sun wasn't shining. And then added to that is our system wasn't built with our transmission lines for over 200 unique sites. It was built for about 15 coal mines, which have now all been converted to natural gas, and they don't move. But when you add 200 more sites, you put up a lot of lines and wires, and those contracts typically stretch over 30, 40, or 50 years. And those are much more difficult to get down, the cost down on people's bills. We only have 2 options: get more people, more industry in Alberta to help pay their share of that, or export more of that power to other markets. And we're trying to do both, but it's going to take a little bit of time. The good news is right now, we have a reliable system. We've got lots of generation, Now we're trying to balance it and balance those costs for Albertans. So costs come down today and over the long run.
Yeah, definitely a good time to be doing that. So, Nathan, you have also been involved with the development of artificial intelligence and data centers in our province. So, how are things looking for us, and what are the benefits that this is going to provide?
Well, I think everybody's heard a little bit about AI data centers and all the things they can do. And obviously, we're all becoming more reliant on computers and computation. And they need a lot of electricity. And right now, that's something that Alberta has. And they also need power lines, data lines like fiber optics. They need people to work, and they need water to help cooling the generation or cooling their data centers themselves. We have all of those things if we put them in the right place. So, of course, this is another terrific opportunity for Alberta to lead the world, diversify our economy, increase job opportunities for our graduates from our post-secondary, and hopefully lead a development of a whole new industry within Alberta, which is AI data and computing and intelligence, and the effect on our post-secondaries for computer engineers and AI data and what they can do with that across the spectrum is a terrific opportunity. And I love being part of it. And I love that Alberta can have the chance of being a global leader in this area.
Would this be one of the centers that Kevin O'Leary is involved in?
Yes, his group has proposed one up close to Grand Prairie. They're working on that as well, and they're working with our regulators to make sure that they adhere to all the laws and legislation within Alberta, because I can't emphasize it enough. These can be great if we do it right, and we're very committed to put Albertans first and make sure they receive the benefit of this, because there have been jurisdictions where a lot of data centers went in without great planning, and it did push some prices higher in the electricity realm. We're very aware of that, and we're doing all the work to make sure that we don't see that happen here.
Yeah, is this kind of a first for Canada? Is Alberta kind of the center, or are there other areas of the country that are doing this, to your knowledge?
There's a lot of interest across Canada, but Alberta is the best position to respond because we have a very robust, innovative private industry that can build the generation and build the data centers. All the other provinces in Canada have a publicly owned utility where the government would have to invest with taxpayer dollars to build the generation, which is not cheap these days. And that's more difficult for them to do. So that's why it's a terrific opportunity for Alberta.
Speaking a little bit more locally here, are there any new developments that you are aware of with respect to further development of the Lethbridge Regional Airport? It's so key to making Lethbridge a better business destination.
It is really one of the hubs that we need to work with, along with the Exhibition Park and our universities and colleges, to make sure we get that business travel. We know the municipality has done a terrific amount of work investing in that. The province has contributed. Unfortunately, right now we're sort of waiting for the outcome of a federal election, so we have someone to talk to about making sure the federal government and their customs portion of it for international trade and flying, that's sort of the missing piece right now, but hopefully we'll get there maybe in about a month or so.
Yeah, it would be lovely to fly to a sun destination straight from Lethbridge without having to drive up to Calgary or whatnot. Yeah. Now, Nathan, on the education front, what are things looking like for new schools in Lethbridge?
Well, we've got some terrific news out of this latest budget. We have another new elementary school for the public school division on the west side. We know that's where a lot of the growth is in Lethbridge. So this will be the third school in about 5 years that will be announced. We're looking forward to that. And on top of that, we got some pre-planning funding for our Holy Spirit School Division for St. Francis Middle School right downtown. That's one that has been in desperate need of some investment. We're very excited to see that on the list, and hopefully over the next couple of years, we'll see it progress through planning and then to construction dollars. Two really exciting announcements in the budget for Lethbridge.
Amazing. I think we're about out of time here, but thanks for being with us today, Nathan. Appreciate having you on.
Thanks so much for all the questions and your great job informing Lethbridge people and Albertans and people all across Canada.
Thank you, Nathan. Nathan Neudorf is the MLA for Lethbridge East and Alberta's Minister of Affordability and Utilities. I'm Jeanette Roche on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News. Thanks so much for watching.